In the annals of early Christianity, amidst the raging storms of persecution, countless souls bore witness to their faith with unwavering courage. Among these shining beacons stood a young boy whose spirit blazed brighter than any flame, challenging the darkness of an empire. This is the epic tale of Saint Vitus, a martyr of Lucania, whose brief but extraordinary life would forever echo through the ages as a testament to purity, faith, and divine fortitude. Chapter 1. The Child of God. Our story begins in the turbulent 3rd century, in the sun-drenched lands of Sicily, though his martyrdom would ultimately claim him in the heart of Lucania, a rugged, mountainous region of ancient Italy. Born into a distinguished and influential pagan family, young Vitus was seemingly destined for a life of privilege, adherence to the old Roman gods, and a secure future within the empire's established order. Yet the divine hand had already subtly touched his innocent soul, setting him on a profoundly different path. Secretly, he was entrusted to the care of his Christian tutors, Modestus and Crescenia, a devout and courageous couple who, despite the perils of their faith, shielded him from the pervasive pagan influences of his aristocratic home. Under their tender, clandestine guidance, Vitus blossomed into a child of profound and authentic faith, his heart filled with the profound teachings of Christ, even as he moved daily within his father Hylas's grand Roman household. The stark contrast between the superficial rituals of the Roman gods and the deep, abiding love of the Christian God resonated deeply within his young spirit. From a remarkably tender age, perhaps as young as 7 or 12, depending on the tradition, Vitus displayed an extraordinary spiritual maturity that belied his years. He prayed with a fervent devotion, his quiet moments of communion with God providing him with solace, wisdom, and an inner strength that would soon be tested beyond measure. His innocence and purity of spirit were so profound that it is said God began to manifest remarkable miracles through his very presence. He brought inexplicable healing to the afflicted, comforting the distressed with words of hope, and his gentle touch often brought relief to those suffering from various ailments. These extraordinary acts, however, could not be hidden for long, and whispers of his unusual abilities and his steadfast devotion to a new, forbidden faith began to reach the ears of his father, Hylas. Hylas, a man steeped in Roman power, tradition, and superstition, was deeply troubled, even outraged, by his son's conversion. He saw it not just as a religious deviation, but as a grave threat to his family's standing and even to Vitus's very life under the harsh anti-Christian edicts of the time. He desperately pleaded, he threatened, he even resorted to severe physical chastisement, hoping to break the child's spirit and force Vitus to renounce Christ, to offer sacrifices to the ancestral Roman gods, and to embrace the conventional path. Yet, the young Vitus remained utterly resolute, his faith unyielding as a mountain against a storm. He understood, with a wisdom far beyond his years, that his ultimate allegiance belonged to a higher king, and that no earthly threat could sever his bond with God. Realizing the utter futility of his increasingly desperate efforts, and fearing the even greater wrath of Roman authorities who condemned Christians to torture and death, Hylas ultimately sought to capture his son and force him into compliance or hand him over. But, guided by divine providence and aided by his loyal tutors, Vitus, along with his beloved mentors Modestus and Crescenia, managed to escape the city under the cloak of night, fleeing into the vast, unknown Roman landscape, seeking refuge and courageously carrying the radiant light of their faith wherever their perilous journey led them. Chapter 2. Miracles and Persecution. Their flight led them across the shimmering Mediterranean Sea and into the rugged, yet beautifully serene region of Lucania, nestled in the heart of southern Italy. Here, in the quiet countryside, amidst remote villages and ancient forests, they hoped to find a safe haven from the omnipresent reach of Roman persecution. They sought anonymity, a chance to practice their faith in peace. But the divine call to bear witness, the very power that resided within Vitus, continued to manifest itself in unmistakable ways. Even in exile, his spirit of compassion and his extraordinary gifts for healing could not be suppressed. He continued to perform acts of profound kindness and miraculous healing, aiding the local populace who were suffering from various ailments, alleviating their pains, and bringing hope where there was despair. His fame, though entirely unintentional and sought against his will, began to spread like wildfire across the land, reaching beyond the secluded valleys. It was during this time that a momentous and ultimately tragic event brought him to the attention of the highest Roman authority. The Emperor Diocletian, a ruler notorious for his fierce and systematic persecution of Christians throughout the vast Roman Empire, was reportedly suffering from a debilitating and terrifying illness. Some accounts describe it as severe epilepsy, others as a form of demonic possession, a condition that caused him great torment and fits of madness. Hearing persistent rumors of a young boy in Lucania with miraculous healing powers, whispers that defied logic but offered a sliver of hope, the desperate emperor, putting aside his prejudice for a moment, reluctantly summoned Vitus to Rome. Vitus, understanding the immense danger he was facing, the very real possibility of torture and death at the heart of the empire, but trusting implicitly in God's divine will, bravely presented himself before the formidable emperor. Through the inexplicable power of Christ, channeled through the pure heart of the young saint, Vitus was able to bring a temporary respite, if not full healing, to Diocletian, calming the emperor's terrifying affliction and bringing him a moment of peace. Yet, instead of profound gratitude, Diocletian's heart, hardened by imperial pride and pagan ideology, turned to furious rage. When Vitus, with quiet dignity, refused to renounce his Christian God and offer sacrifices to the multitude of Roman deities, a direct challenge to the emperor's authority and the very fabric of the Roman state, Diocletian saw only defiance. Thus began a period of horrific, unimaginable torment for the young saint and his two faithful guardians, Modestus and Crescenia. They were subjected to increasingly cruel and ingenious tortures, all designed to break their indomitable spirit and force an act of apostasy. They were thrown into a massive cauldron filled with bubbling, molten lead and pitch, substances that should have instantly consumed them. Yet they emerged miraculously unharmed, their skin unblemished, a clear testament to God's miraculous protection. They faced wild beasts, savage lions and bears, in the grand arena, yet the animals, instead of attacking and devouring them, lay down meekly at their feet, humbled by their sanctity, licking their wounds instead of inflicting new ones. Through every agonizing trial, Vitus, Modestus, and Crescenia remained utterly steadfast, their faces radiant with an unearthly faith, their prayers echoing through the Colosseum, inspiring awe and even conversions among the astonished onlookers. Each torture they endured, each torment that failed, only seemed to strengthen their unshakable resolve, proving beyond doubt that their power came from a source far greater and more eternal than any earthly emperor could command. Chapter 3. The Ultimate Witness. Despite the utterly miraculous failures of all previous attempts to compel them to renounce their faith, Diocletian, consumed by his relentless hatred for Christianity and utterly bewildered by Vitus's unyielding spirit, ordered one final, unspeakably brutal torment. Vitus, Modestus, and Crescenia, their bodies battered but their spirits defiant, were dragged to the banks of a river, traditionally identified as the River Siler in Lucania, for what was intended to be their final, definitive execution. They were mercilessly hung on the rack, their bodies stretched and dislocated, enduring immense, unimaginable pain for the pure love of Christ and the salvation they believed in. Yet, even as their earthly bodies suffered agonizing torment, their spirits soared, filled with an inexplicable divine grace that sustained them. Ancient accounts, passed down through generations of believers, tell of profound supernatural interventions during their final agony. It is said that angels descended from the heavens to comfort them, whispering words of encouragement and strength. The very earth beneath them trembled, a great, tumultuous storm arose, unsettling their pagan tormentors and causing chaos among the executioners. Despite the emperor's relentless and escalating cruelty, the three martyrs remained utterly unbroken in their faith, their conviction shining even brighter against the darkness of their suffering. Finally, exhausted beyond human endurance, but still unwavering in their devotion, they were sentenced to be beheaded. Before the final, decisive blow, it is said that the young Vitus, with his last breaths, prayed fervently, not for himself, but for all those who would remember him and seek his intercession in the future. He specifically asked God to protect and bring healing to all those afflicted with ailments of the mind or body, particularly those suffering from conditions like epilepsy, convulsions, or other neurological disorders, as well as those struggling with demonic oppression. His prayer was a final act of compassion, extending his miraculous gifts beyond his earthly life. On that fateful day, amidst the beautiful yet brutal landscape of Lucania, Saint Vitus, along with his faithful guardians Modestus and Crescenia, offered the ultimate witness to their unwavering faith. Their young lives were cut short, brutally ended by the sword, but their martyrdom was not an ending. It was a glorious triumph, a profound spiritual victory over the forces of darkness. Their sacrifice became a powerful seed for the burgeoning Christian church, inspiring countless others to embrace Christianity despite the constant threat of persecution. Their bodies were later retrieved by pious Christians who bravely risked their own lives to give the martyrs a proper burial, laying them to rest in sacred ground. These sites of veneration soon became places of pilgrimage and continued miracles, solidifying their legacy. The cult of Saint Vitus spread rapidly throughout the Christian world, gaining immense popularity. He became one of the renowned 14 Holy Helpers, a group of saints whose intercession was particularly invoked for various ailments and needs. He was revered as a powerful patron saint against epilepsy, nervous system disorders, various dancing manias, like the historical St. Vitus dance, animal bites, and even maladies like oversleeping. His feast day, June 15th, is still celebrated with solemnity and joy across the globe, a vibrant and enduring reminder of the purity, unwavering courage, and miraculous power of a young boy who, through God's grace, defied an entire empire and won an eternal crown of glory. A legacy of light. The epic tale of Saint Vitus is more than just a historical account of a martyr. It is a timeless testament to the power of unwavering faith in the face of overwhelming adversity. From a child of noble birth to a beacon of miraculous healing and finally to a courageous martyr, Vitus's life illuminates the profound strength that can be found in absolute devotion to Christ. His story reminds us that age is no barrier to spiritual greatness, and that true courage lies not in wielding earthly power, but in standing firm for heavenly truth. Saint Vitus, the young martyr of Lucania, continues to inspire generations, a shining example that even in the darkest of times, the light of faith can never be extinguished, and the love of God ultimately triumphs over all.